So the first thing that I must remember is that today I uploaded this new material for you to understand closely and in a deeper way the relationship between sociolinguistics and the field of education. Because remember that I told you that the last task of this semester, this sociolinguistics course, is coming up with a lesson plan that must be considering some of the elements or aspects or factors, if you want to call them like that, that we studied. So the first thing that you have to keep in mind when revising all the instructions given by me in this last session is that you have 6 elements here. The first one is, as you can see, sociolinguistics and language education. So I will go one by one to review in a short and precise way each of these elements. Okay, so let's see. This is the first reading material that I want you to get familiar with. This is Sociolinguistics, Language Teaching and New Literacy Studies. So when you review and when you get close to this reading material, you will see that here you will find some of the approaches to understand how sociolinguistics can be applied to the field of language teaching. In your case, teaching English. Okay, so I want you to pay close attention to, for example, these subtitles: social theories of language. Okay, then sociolinguistics in communicative language teaching. So you will know here, and you already know some of these names, big names in the field of sociolinguistics in relation to language teaching. For example, Hames, that we already learned about his work on ethnography of communication and its relationship with sociolinguistics, and how he critiques or he approaches in a different way this definition given or created by Noam Chomsky about competence, because he came up with a term or the concept of communicative competence in order to explain how the speakers of any language is always integrated in a society, and he knows, or the majority knows, how to use language depending on the context. So that's his his main focus on creating and explaining how human beings control and manage this communicative competence. Okay, so here you will find some of my coloring of my notes, because it's already filtered by my reading. So get close to these comments. Okay, here also you will find different competence, and I advise you to keep in mind this competence when you are considering the structuring of your lesson plan. For example, you have here grammatical competence, that is all about knowing the rules of the system. Sociolinguistic competence is more about the use in context. This core competence is about cohesion and coherence when organizing the structure, and knowing when to and knowing how to organize, because whenever you are interacting with someone using the system, you have to know the exact precise order of your sentence or the connection of your sentences. And it doesn't matter if it is spoken or if it is written. Okay, and the last is the strategic competence, is how to compensate when you are feeling or you sense that your discourse is not reaching the other line of the communication. So you change your strategy when communicating with someone. Let's say you're trying to get something from someone some type of information, and the first contact that you made with this person B, subject B, in the communication, you're feeling that your message is not getting through, and you will not get what you want, so you change your strategy. You change the sentence, you change the tone of your voice, you change the subjects, the adjectives, so you can get what you want. So this is a strategic competence. When you move along, you also find this term here is communicative language teaching. So maybe you already know this because of other classes, maybe approaches, or especially approaches on language acquisition. Maybe you already saw and you already studied and comprehended this concept. So when you move along, you will find other elements that you will help you to structure your lesson plan. Let's say, for example, this one, sociolinguistics in the classroom ethnography. Here you have already my filtering, so you will know what to read, okay? Classroom context. See, that's why understanding the relationship, society and language is essential. Because of this, microethnography is how we observe classes and we concentrate and we focus our attention in specific elements of the class, okay? So you don't have to read the entire article, because the other part of the article, so you can read up to this part, sociolinguistic and functional grammar, and not the entire element, because once you get to this point, this one, genre theory in sociolinguistics, you should stop right here, okay, right here, because from this part all the way up, it's what you are interested in, and will give you some advices and will give you some hints in how to organize your lesson plan. So once you read this, you can go to the other one that I find the most interesting because of this, because it reminds you, sociolinguistics in language teaching, it reminds you, and it's recent, only 5 years. It's recent, and it will give you some clues about how to implement the what I want you to implement, what I want you to keep in mind. It's, remember that I told you to keep in mind some of the social variables. When you enter a classroom, you are dealing with different classes, social classes, different levels of education, uneducated parents or educated parents. So you're dealing with different elements. You're dealing with a gender, and you're dealing with political positions about the world. You're dealing with religious positions about the world. So all these elements interacting will affect your process of getting through when teaching something. So here is some literature review, so you don't have to get close to that. You can start right here. What is sociolinguistics? And you already know that. Micro and micro sociolinguistics. What is language teaching? So you should start right here. What is language teaching? The approaches, and here it is. So related to language teaching, the teacher should consider the individual factors of learners. 3 of them are age, social education, and educational context. So you read age, social context, what it's important to understand, educational context. See? So here you have all these elements that will guide you through considering these ones and others elements when organizing your lesson plan. For example, here, why sociolinguistics is necessary in language teaching. So here you will find useful this information, because it will expand your perspective about sociolinguistics, not just as a research field that understand the relationship between society and language, but also as an element, important element to use when teaching your classes: relationships, sociolinguistics, and language teaching. Okay, ethnicity is something to keep in mind. Remember that when you also get into a classroom, it's likely that you will find different ethnic groups, ethnic communities, black communities, indigenous communities, mixed with different social classes, and that or those elements surely will affect what you are and what you have in the classroom. Geography, remember geography, dialects. Maybe you have a person from Nariño, a person from the Pacific coast, and that also will enhance positively or negatively your process of getting through what you need to get through. It's not just the structure, but the content that you use to teach. Let's say, remember this example that I talked to you about food and the meals and traditional food in this part of the country. You should maybe use this topic to get close to this part of sociolinguistics, geography, okay, gender, social class here. So occupation and role, teaching English as a foreign language associated with sociolinguistics. So as you can see, this short article will guide you through having in mind some specific elements when organizing your ideas. So this is the second element that I want you to keep in mind. Okay, the third one is this one: current perspectives on sociolinguistic and English language education. This is optional. You can read it or you cannot read it. It's already filtered by my reading. So as you can see, here's some colors lining that will guide you through the process of reading this and pay attention to some of the the most interesting ideas. Okay. See, this is optional, but the first that you should read with all the details is the first one here, first one, and the second one. Okay, once you have this out of sight, sorry, you should move on and pay attention to this lesson planner template. This is the one she gave me. When I say she, it's Lorraine. She presented this lesson planner to us because it's easy. As you can see, you have here the warm-up, 5 to 6 minutes, the teacher action, the student's action, and the resources or the materials. Building background, and you have the description, what you need to do in the building background. You have presentations, okay? Practice, review, and assessment. So as you can see, it's an easy template to work with, okay? But here you have another 5 and 6. 5 and 6 are those. These are some of my lesson plans when Jose Luis Lopez was the coordinator of the program, and he taught us how to organize our process in the classroom. So here, lesson plan 1 and 2, session 1 and session 2. You have Unidad de Aprendizaje, Language and Society, 6 semester, video in 3, 6 hours. So you have Elemento de Competencia, to define key terms related to sociolinguistics. So these are the elements, are the description of the first and the second session of the sociolinguistic course. So I give the student a little description of the lesson of the two first session of 4, in which he will or she will understand some of the major topics related to the relationship between language and society. Then I have saberes de la lección. So students will be able to understand language as a fundamental event in human history. And that's what we did in the first and the second session. Acknowledge the definition of language in general terms in a specific way. And we did that reviewed structural elements of language. We also did that and recognized variation as an intrinsic phenomenon to language. Those all actions we did in the first two sessions. Then I have here Práctica Independiente. The session will be, so these are my actions, the step by step of my acting in the classroom in the first two sessions. So here I have, the session will begin by reconstructing the concept of language as a general ability. After that, I will do this once students, and after analyzing and discussing the videos in class, the teacher will review in depth structural elements of the language as a linguistic entity. And finally, once the structural elements of language are reviewed, the next step is presenting the concept of variation as a phenomenon of every natural language. The close up the session, the teacher will review the fundamental notions and explain to dismiss any doubt or incoherent perspective of language. So as you can see, here are some of my actions when I plan my sociolinguistic classes. And this is a format given by Jose Luis. It's not the official one, but I just needed you to know that I'm also working on this when I go to the classroom. And as you already, and you may also know that the lesson plan is a guide, something that will guide you through the process of interacting with your students. But remember, and you already know this, but when you are in a classroom, many things can go wrong, many things can go out of the way, and those elements will get you distracted, will get your student distracted, and your lesson plan will fail. So this is just something that will guide you through. But since this is a closing task in my course, we need to keep in mind and we need to apply these notions, these social variables. And if you have in mind those social variables, it's likely that you will go through your class successfully, because once you enter the classroom, you will identify that there are different speech communities, there are different ethnic communities, there are different social classes there that are interacting and are affecting one another. And besides that, there are different gender roles, okay? And they interact and they use language in different ways. So when you have this, and when you create and you organize your lesson plan, having and considering these elements, it will be reflected here in your teacher's actions. So you warm up having in mind that there are children and there are girls, there are girls and there are boys, and you have to consider that you have to create a balanced actions there that keep in mind what boys are into and what girls are into. Okay, once you move to building background, it's like it says there, to connect pre-existing knowledge with the things that you will be teaching. So when you do that, you have to consider again, what type of actions should I consider to connect the pre-existing knowledge of my students with the things that I will be teaching. So if I'm going to talk about food or traditional dishes in this session, social elements are important, because remember that we are costeños and we don't eat eggs and toasts and honey and orange juice in breakfast. We eat yuca con suero, pollo limpio, huevos perico, café con leche. And you have to keep in mind that these traditions that are part of what we are should be considered in the length, in the eye of sociolinguistics. So you should put your sociolinguistic glasses to watch through those classes when organizing that. So the meals or the musical traditions in our uh, regions are really essential to organize your 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 like the structures that you will be teaching. So remember that the content is nothing but a good excuse and a good context to teach your structures. Okay, content based instruction. You should be careful when choosing your content. So for example, let's say traditional games girls play or traditional games boys play, and you are teaching everyday actions, and you choose the traditional sports kids play when they are growing up. So you see la peregrina, el arrancayuca, el quemado, el Jimmy, el batetapita, el trompo, la bolita, volar barrilete. So you have to keep in mind those elements. And once you do that through your sociolinguistic classes, you will create your lesson plan and you will succeed by doing so. Okay? So all those elements you will find here, and also you have here all the instructions. So let's zoom up here. You have the instructions. First, second, then third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. See here, you have the materials, and also I will add this video class to the existing material gathered there. So remember, if you have any doubt, any comment, any question, please don't hesitate to ask. So I say goodbye and I hope you're doing well.